All right, so for this second video, I want to take a few minutes to discuss some of the historical narrative behind the guitar, maybe the chain of custody, how Sherman might have acquired it, and discuss a little bit about the condition of the guitar when as I've seen it. So some of this is fact. Some is supposition, and some of it is just oral family history. So if you have any additions, corrections, or comments, I'd love to hear them. I've done a lot of research, but I don't know everything. So with regard to the chain of custody, Sherman was born in 1873 and died in 1935. Obviously had it that whole time. At his death in 1935, I believe it probably passed into the hands of Lyle, or at least he had access to it. Now, Lyle was only 8 years old in 1935, and he died in 1946, but he had certainly had access to it, as evidenced by the fact that his initials were carved into the front of it. At any rate, upon his death in 1946, Rudy Sr., my dad, took possession of it and had it until his death in 1995. Now, I have vivid memories of seeing this guitar in Dad's attic probably in the 60s. So I know that he had it at that time. At Dad's death in 1995, Mickey Warner took possession of it, so he had it from 95 to 2024. In 2024, he gave it to me, Joe, and I have it. I currently have it in my possession. Now, as far as Sherman's acquisition or possession, it appears, I would assume that his active playing years were probably in his early teens and through his 20s. So that's like 1885 to 1900. So he probably acquired it during that period of time. Now, how he acquired it is speculation, but guitars did not appear in mail order catalogs until they first appeared in the Sears and Roebuck catalog in the 1930s. However, they were commercially manufactured as early as 1830, and with the advent of U.S. mail service and rail service, they were available by mail order, and they were also marketed by traveling salespeople and general stores. So I suspect he came in contact with it in one of those ways. I just want to touch on the valuation, on what the expense that Sherman went to get the guitar. Remember, this is 1880, 1900. This is only 20 or 30 years after the Civil War. The average wage, according to labor statistics, the average wage in 1900 was $435 a year. This is annual, and which makes the hourly wage, based on a 50-hour week, which was normal at that time, about 17 cents an hour. Since Sears and Roebuck didn't list the guitar until the 1930s, we can only guess what the value was in 1900, but Sears listed it at $4.50 in the 30s. This guitar was probably priced slightly less than that because it was 30 years earlier when I suspect Sherman acquired it. But even if we base modern day laborers' wage at $17 an hour, that's 100 times more than the hourly wage in 1900, which would mean that the $4.50 that Sears had it listed for would be equivalent in dollars to $450 today. So despite its dubious condition, quality-wise, and standards, industry standards, it was still market quality at that time, and it represented a substantial investment by Sherman to acquire it, because it would have been the better part of a week's pay, especially in light of the fact that it came with a case, which I also still have. So that probably would have added 20 or 25% of the value. I don't want to get into too far into this narrative because it's going to take too long, make too long a video, and I don't want to bore you. But I will talk briefly about the guitar itself. There was no branding on the guitar, so there's no idea really who made it, short of an expensive appraisal of some sort. But that was not uncommon to have an unbranded guitar, because there were many small shops and makers. One of the bigger ones at that time was Lyon and Healy, and they were based out of Chicago, and we know that Sherman had some relationship with that area of the country. But Lyon and Healy also manufactured, in names I'm reading here, in other names such as Washburn, Lakewood, Thornwood, J.R. Lewis, J.R. Stewart, and Regal. And I'm sure there were others, but it could have been manufactured by any one of those or several others, I suppose. Now, regarding the condition that I received it in, and what I believe transpired in the meantime, is as follows. Now, the tuners on the guitar were Waverly tuners, and Waverly tuners were not manufactured until the 1930s. So those tuners were obviously replacements, which is evidenced by a lot of extra drill holes and things in the head, excuse me, which were from the original tuners. Also, there was a hand-carved floating bridge on the guitar, which was not original, and it covered up, I know that because it covered up the original peg holes from the original fixed bridge. And with the floating bridge, they also came with a nickel-plated tailpiece, which was also clearly not original, but an identical one I did find in a Sears catalog in the 1930s. None of these items existed via mail order until the 30s. So all of this indicates to me that the poor condition probably existed, the state that it's in now probably existed in the 30s, or should I say the repairs that were done were initiated somewhere in the 1930s. They may have intended to make some repairs, which was shortly before, actually, Sherman's death. So I believe the repairs were probably done before Sherman died. Now, Lyle was only 8 years old in 1935 when Sherman died. And when Sherman died, the family was obviously desperately poor because he had lost his income. And social welfare programs weren't available either for dependents or for unemployment until the late 30s. And remember, the height of the Depression was 1933. So Sherman had likely lost his job at Fairbanks Morrison Company probably in the early 30s, could have been 33, could have been 34. But at any rate, he lost his job and subsequently actually lost the house on Division Street. But between the time he was laid off at Fairbanks Morrison Company and 1935, at the time of his death, he worked as a stonemason on the Public Works, the WPA project at the Beloit Municipal Pool, which did not even begin, that project didn't begin until 1935. So, that's where he was said to be working when he received his injuries. So, and he died in 35. So he might have died right after he got the job, or shortly thereafter. He was probably working there a short time when he received his injuries and died. But where I'm going with this is that between the time of his death, or between the time he got the WPA job and he lost his Fairbanks Morris job. Prior to that time, he was very busy working full-time at Fairbanks Morris. He built a house. He was raising a family of 7 people on probably $10 a week. So he was pretty busy and probably couldn't make any kind of repairs then. But between jobs, it's very possible that he had time to look at his guitar. And after all, this was something he bought in his childhood, and he'd owned it for 50 years, so he had some fondness for it. So it's very possible that he tried to make some repairs while he had that time between jobs. After Sherman died in 1935, Lyle may have taken possession of it, evidenced by the fact that his initials were carved into the top of it. But undoubtedly he had, didn't have any financial resources or skill to do any kind of repairs to it. So it seems unlikely to me, even though his initials were scratched into the surface, it doesn't seem likely to me that he would have, if he had the resources to refinish the guitar, he wouldn't then have taken a nail or some sharp object and scratched through the surface of the finish that he had just put on it to carve his initials in it. So I believe the repairs were probably made prior to that. So based on what I've seen and researched and heard through passed down information, I would estimate that the date of manufacture is probably around the 1890s, when Sherman would then have acquired it, which makes it possibly 1880s, 1890. Did I say 1900? 1890 or even 1880. So I believe the guitar is probably 125 or 135 years old. Now, I'm going to stop this narrative because I have more to talk about, but I want to show you what I've done so far on the guitar, and maybe go through a couple of minor repairs today, and show you what we can expect to come up. Okay, this is what lateral bracing looks like. This is the back of the guitar, which I have removed. And these are what's called lateral braces. These are original. I removed them and repaired them, and I'm ready to glue them back down. But this is typical of bracing inside of a guitar at that time. So this is what the bracing looked like on the back of the guitar and inside the front of the guitar. The front of the guitar is called the soundboard, but there was similar lateral bracing in the soundboard, just like this. This is what the new bracing will look like. This was lateral bracing also, but I've removed that and made new bracing. This is not glued in. I just wanted to show you this. We'll be gluing this in probably on the next video, and I'll show you what that looks like. But I wanted to see what the new bracing will look like. This is what most modern bracing looks like now, and the purpose of the bracing is to keep the pressure that the strings put on the front of the guitar from bowing the top, which is exactly what's happened to this guitar. So we have to take those bows out of it and then install this bracing. So I'm going to take this out, and then I'm going to show you some of the things that we've actually done so far. If you remember, the back of the guitar was completely blown apart and just about thoroughly destroyed. So we've replaced this base block. This is a new piece. This is poplar, similar to what the braces are made out of. This guitar has poplar, birch, and walnut, and probably some good old pine in it. But in addition to making this brace and trying to close up the back as best we could, obviously there's a lot of refinishing to do, we've also made some repairs to that side crack. I don't know if you can even see this crack line in here from your camera shot or not, but on the inside it's clear to see that crack. There, you can see the crack. These little spots on here, these are called cleats. And after I glue the crack, I put the cleats on it so that the crack cannot spread open. It's like a permanent Band-Aid on the inside of that to hold it shut. I've also made a repair in the crack in the face of the soundboard. Right through here. You can barely see it here, but at any rate, I've made a repair here and put 2 cleats on here as well. Now there's a third crack, which you may be able to see if I can get enough light on it. Right here, there's a third crack. Maybe you can see that line. I'm going to, that has been re-glued, and we'll put cleats on that, but I'm going to wait until the bracing is glued in so that it doesn't interfere with the path of the braces that are put in. It's interesting to see these 2 little nail holes. I don't know if you can see these nail holes. No, maybe you can't. 2 nail holes right there. They were actually used by whoever did the repairs to try to nail a loose brace back into place. But that's what we've done so far. Done a lot of cleanup on the back and the front, and I'm ready to glue on a repair in the front, and I'll try to show you that now. Okay, so I want to go through a small repair here with you and show you what we're going to do to correct this factory defect, which was done at the factory and covered up because of for expediency or for whatever reason that was hidden. So I'm going to just take these off. They're not glued on yet, so they're just going to get in the way. The flaw that I found was a machine mistake right here in the bottom of the back, where it glued down to the body of the guitar. I don't know if you can see that little step in the veneer there, but the veneer was damaged there. So we've got to correct that so that when this is glued back down on the base, it's flat. I have these heavy bars clamped to it now because it's not flat. But when we make the repair, we want it to be flat, and then when we clamp it down to the base of the guitar, it will remain flat because this filler is going to fill in the gap that caused it to be bowed in the first place. So we're going to just take and we're going to put a little glue. This is a piece that I've put on to finish it. The loss of material on the guitar is about 40 thousandths of an inch thick. The mistake took that much extra out of it, but it created quite a bow on the top. So I've created a plug, a filler strip here that's about 60 thousandths thick. I'm going to glue that on there, and then when it dries, then I'll be able to plane that down, back down to the original surface so that it's even and smooth. So we're going to glue this in place, and then a later time we're going to be able to trim it down and smooth it out. So we're just going to add a little glue to that right now. This is a tight bond glue. We're just going to spread a little glue gently here on this surface. Okay, now let's take and put a little bit of glue on our repair piece. Need a little more glue, don't we? Now I want to be a little careful not get too much glue squeeze out, but this repair will be invisible on the finished product because it will be inside of a glue joint, but it's needed to support the glue joint so that it doesn't sag. So now we're going to put this back down on the guitar. in the void that was created by the mistake. Trying not to get too much squeeze out, because any squeeze out that's there, we've got to take off. And that just makes it more difficult. So we're going to put some clamps on here to hold that small piece in place. There's not very much there. So we're just going to put these tiny clamps on there, and then 3 or 4 hours this glue will dry and we'll be in good shape. So I'm going to take a little hammer and just tap and make sure that that's up in there tight. And that should hold it. It's fairly level, it's straight and level, so that all of this excess that you see here now, that will be trimmed off later. When that glue dries, I can trim that off, and this then will become an even thickness all the way across the back. It will become a nice even thickness, so that when it's glued together, it'll stay nice and flat. So I've decided to take a minute and show you how I glue in these 3 new cleats. I know that they're not going to interfere with the bracing because I've placed the bracing in here temporarily, and I know that they'll miss. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those in and show you how I do that. Once again, we're going to take a little tight bond glue, and we'll paint these surfaces. I got a little too much water in that. My brush was too wet. I'm just going to paint a little glue on this patch called a cleat. I'm going to set it right down there. Push it in place. I'll do another one. Same way. Just a little glue. Don't want a lot of squeeze out. You probably can't see it, but I put pencil marks here so I know where to locate these. And the third one. A little more glue. Oh, shouldn't have done that. Wipe that off a little bit. Okay, here's our third cleat going down. I'm going to press that into place. Press all of these into place. And then I'm going to take a little bit of a Q-tip. I'm going to try to wipe off some of that excess squeeze out. I don't want to move that too much. Not having good luck here. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we have the pieces in place. So what we want to do, we want to make sure that the top is flat. When we glue on anything, it has to make sure everything is flat, because we want to end up with something flat. So I'm going to take this heavy weight, this is probably 4 or 5 pounds, and I'm going to place it right over the cleats. So that will squeeze that down and hold that flat. And that should be it. Tomorrow we can take off the clamps on the top, we'll remove the weight and take the clamps off the top, and then we will begin to put the bracing in the next video. Hope to see you then.